Yo, what is good, everybody? It is ya boy, Golden Falls, going to What Ifs, whatever you want to call me, and I am back. This is part 3 of What If Deku had a Spartan Quirk. And yeah, I just want to say I hope y'all have been enjoying the What Ifs, and I hope y'all continue to enjoy them. Yeah, and I'll keep trying to pump them out. Ideally, I want to stay daily. I'm currently in the process of getting ready to actually move where I live, so I might miss a day or two coming up. I'm gonna try my best not to, though. Like, that is genuinely, I want to not miss any days, or try my best not to miss so many days. But nonetheless, I just wanted to give a quick little heads up on what could happen or what might happen. Now, with that said, I just want to get right into the what if, so let's get it. Izuku Midoriya is ready to train like hell at the forest training camp. And frankly, this is what excites him. This is what makes his blood pump. I mean, at the end of the day, he loves the idea of trying to train and get stronger, and the forest training camp is going to allow him to do that. So when they get there and they do their usual, training within the forest with, defeating the sand or ground-like monsters and stuff like that, he would get some solid training in. Even for the first time, training with Kirishima. Kirishima is a very durable person, and Izuku has now learned a way to enhance people, even though he is sparring or fighting against them. So that's what he does. He actually enhances Kirishima as if they are in a friendly spar, and Kirishima is able to use his hardening quirk to a totally different level. And on top of that, he's able to use his quirk, or his hardening quirk, to a higher level. But also, the fact is, he's able to actually use that quirk to be more durable, to have more stamina involved with it, and all of the above. Like, he's able to do quite a few things with his quirk now, since it's more enhanced than usual. And this is where they would just go at it. I mean, him and Izuku would just go blow for blow, and they would do their absolute best to just see what their limitations are of their own quirks. See how far Kirishima's quirk could go, see how far Izuku's quirk, to go or can go, and so on and so forth. I mean, they would train like absolute hell. But eventually, some people or some villains would arrive through portals. But these portals would not be your typical portals, because Kirogiri is already in capture and is under investigation, so he's currently not actually a part of any of this. But it seems like All For One has open portals, or, well, nobody knows it's All For One necessarily, but he has open portals for the League of Villains. They would invade the forest training camp, and Izuku would make sure that the kid on top of the hill is okay. And before you know it, he would arrive on top of that hill, and he would see that Muscular is actually there trying to basically threaten and honestly try to kill the kid. And that's horrible. That's a horrible thing. So Izuku says that he'll handle this. I mean, he even enhances the kid to the point where the kid's actually able to utilize his quirk that hasn't really been of much use at all. Like, he hasn't been able to really use it at all, but he knows he's able to somewhat use water, at least to a mild extent, right? Like, he's able to somewhat use it. And that's what he does. He's able to utilize the water to help Izuku fight Muscular, but Izuku really doesn't need the help. I mean, he absolutely destroys Muscular. Izuku would stand and just go trading punches with Muscular, and every hit that Izuku absorbs, he's able to give back another one even stronger than the last. I mean, he refuses to let this guy, do anything at all. And Izuku makes it extremely known that, well, there is no way around this, that he is going to lose right here and right now. There's no way he's going to stand here and defeat him. There's no way he will defeat the Spartan. He will not be able to defeat someone that is basically a Spartan. He will not be able to defeat him or Izuku that is currently standing in front of him. and he absolutely destroys Muscular. I mean, at the end of the day, Muscular is really strong, but he's also just extremely lacking in terms of just raw martial arts. Izuku's strength, his durability, his ability to overcome the odds, and on top of that, he is an expert at martial arts. I mean, there is no way Muscular is going to keep up with him, and there's no way Izuku is going to allow this little kid to get hurt, because, yes, don't get me wrong, he has Spartan tendencies, but he's not going to allow a child to get hurt when the child has done nothing wrong, even in the slightest. So he's going to make sure that he handles the business, his business, to the best of his ability. He needs to make sure that Muscular stays down for good and that he doesn't hurt anyone else. And that's exactly what happens. He doesn't hurt anyone else. At least Muscular is completely out of commission and can't do a single freaking thing. Izuku would then take Koda away to the safety for the most part to make sure that everything is all right. And he flat out just, goes along his way of trying to help his classmates. But eventually they get a hold of somebody. They get a hold of Katsuki Bakugo. Now, in the UA Sports Festival, he showed subtle signs of being kind of super villainy, kind of. And at the end of it, he was a little bit more tame, but he was still rowdy enough to put the alarms on, you could say. Now, while they were here, they also wanted to grab one Izuku Midoriya, but it's pretty obvious that it's not going to be that simple. There's just no way that they're going to be able to stop this kid or get this kid to basically listen properly. And, well, let's just say they decide to stray away from that plan. And they actually are able to capture Katsuki Bakugo, even though Izuku does put a beating and capture some of the villains that were currently there. And luckily, well, at least for the League of Villains, that they had some extra Nomus to spare, so they actually sent them over there as well to slow down Izuku during this fight. Izuku had the full opportunity, if not stopped by the Nomus, to eliminate Shigaraki. If he wanted to take that and he wanted to get rid of him permanently, he definitely could have. But Izuku kind of slipped under the radar a little bit and was in an unfortunate spot, so he wasn't unfortunately able to get to that point to completely stop him, you could say. Now, this would lead to obviously Bakugo being captured, everybody leaving, and everybody trying to find the location of Bakugo. And Izuku would be asking everybody how to find Bakugo, how to find Katsuki Bakugo, because they've kind of made amends, right? Izuku doesn't necessarily like the guy, but they made somewhat of amends where he wants to make sure that the guy's okay, and he's going to make sure these villains pay. And Izuku would have full intentions of just going and saving Bakugo on his own. Shoot, if he brought a couple students, he would do that as well. And he would have full intentions of doing so. He would grab his spear, his shield, and get on his armor, and he would immediately be thinking to himself that it's truly no man left behind. I mean, yes, he got captured, and yes, maybe this isn't necessarily the Spartan way. Maybe getting captured is a show of weakness, but it's a different world and a different time. He's obviously looked into the Spartans. He's obviously taken part of their code as his own, and he does modify it to the way he thinks it should be based on, well, being a hero. And before Izuku is actually able to sneak off and leave, he actually is approached by somebody. He's approached by Shota Aizawa, and Aizawa is about to tell him something, but Izuku cuts him off, saying that he's not going to convince him otherwise. He's not going to convince him to go not save Bakugo. He doesn't care if the other heroes are going. It doesn't matter. He needs to save his friend. In which Aizawa nods and says he knows. And he knows he doesn't throw around that friend word very loosely, even though him and Bakugo had his, well, their down and ups, mostly downs, really. But he would then pull something out of his pocket and give it to Izuku, and Izuku would look at it and see that it's a provisional hero license, in which Aizawa tells him that he has far accelerated everybody else, and it took a lot of convincing and a lot of footage, but he was able to convince those, well, who give these out to basically give him one, especially because he's going on a siege and a raid to take down the League of Villains with the other heroes, and he needs to be on the forefront, just like a Spartan would be. Izuku nods and smirks slightly and says that he won't let him down, he won't let anybody down. And Izuku would go on this raid to save Bakugo, and well, he would lead the forefront, and Endeavor would be watching this, and he would be complaining, saying that this is BS. Like, why is Izuku or this kid being able to do this, but he's not able to siege in as well? In which everybody would explain why and yada yada yada, whatever, right? But Endeavor doesn't really hear any of this. I mean, he is just, you know, livid about it for whatever reason he has. Now, this would lead to Izuku leading the charge through the wall, and they would break through, and all the heroes would feel this surge of power. And that would include Bakugo, as he would send explosions at the other villains that are there, and the other villains would begin to get battered. I mean, knocked out almost instantaneously, and they would have to be saved by, well, one all for one. Portals opening up, Bakugo being taken through, but Izuku not hesitating at all, jumping through the portal as well. He would land on the ground, slamming his spear into the ground as the sharp part of the spear, or the blade, would basically come out of the bow staff, and he would look toward All for One. He would look at Bakugo and then look around to see the League of Villains also there, but mostly out cold. He would slam his shield and tell All for One that today is where he falls. Today is where he will lose. Bakugo's explosion quirk would start crackling as if he's about to go head to head with All for One with Izuku Midoriya, but before they could even do anything, they would hear a voice come charging in and jump in and slam on the ground, and he would say, "I am here," in which Izuku would look over and he would smirk, saying that it seems like All Might wants the rematch with the one and only All for One. But this rematch is not going to be on fair terms because, well, let's just say heroes aren't going to give a fair fight necessarily, just like the villains would never do so as well. In which Izuku tells Bakugo to make sure those villains over there can't get up. Then make sure if they get up that he puts them right back down. Bakugo smirks as he can feel that his explosions are even stronger than before. Maybe Izuku's quirk has evolved even further and has now, well, enhanced him even more. Bakugo is happy about this, but also a little bit frustrated at the fact he can't do this on his own, at least not yet. Izuku would then lead the charge against All for One with All Might, and this would empower All Might. So much so that All Might would feel almost in his prime, if not in his prime. All Might would feel extremely powerful, and Izuku would feed off the power that All Might has. Tendrils or black tendrils would get sent at him as he would block them away, shattering them to pieces. Izuku feeding off the strength that All Might currently has, and feeding off the strength that All Might has in general, and basically the quirks around him, allowing him to be even stronger. Izuku would charge toward All for One, bashing him, and then bashing him again, and then also stabbing his spear into his leg, slamming him on the ground. All Might would follow up with a Detroit Smash, landing flush to the jaw of All for One. All Might would make it very clear that this is for his mentor, this is for Nana Shimura, and he's going to make sure that he pays for it, at least with his entire life in prison and behind bars. Izuku would dive toward All for One, slamming once again All for One on the ground, as All Might follows up with another punch over and over again. It seems like they're both in sync, and it seems like All for One has no chance of even getting up. He's staggered. He can't even breathe. He looks to his side to try and save his protege in Shigaraki, trying to put some sort of a portal, but as he does, Bakugo immediately grabs Shigaraki, throwing him up to avoid the portal, and explodes as slamming him in a different direction. All for One can't muster the strength to actually send another portal, and it seems like the League of Villains will fall right here. All for One would struggle, trying to give all his power to one single punch, but as he throws that punch and All Might goes to block it, well, it seems like the Spartan would jump in front, blocking it as well, sending all of the power that All For One had right back at him. As All Might would then see a staggered All For One about to absolutely crumble to his knees, and he would land his United States of Smash, landing it clean as he would knock out entirely, and the League of Villains would be on the ground entirely defeated. Izuku would pound his spear and then pound his shield, and he would basically chant out chant out different things over and over again as he continues to pound on his shield, making extremely loud noises. Now, this would then lead to the imprisonment of the League of Villains, and also lead to, well, Izuku flat out being massively prepared for anything to come. They kind of go on to basically work on hero-like super moves and stuff like that, and Izuku works on a move he's been trying to master, something that is pretty freaking epic but pretty damn hard to do, jumping straight into the air and then basically crashing down on a long distance. He doesn't know how he's able to do it, but for now he's able to do it kind of short distances as he jumps up in the air and crashes down and mowing down over an area. But overall, he basically is learning how to do this and getting a little bit more strength in the process. Now, what is next is normally the Provisional Hero License exam. But Izuku already has his Provisional Hero License, and initially he thought he would have to go through another testing period, but it seems like they really did vouch for him so heavily that they told him, like, this is going to be your license now, or your Provisional Hero License now. Like, you have shown and proven plenty, and have proven everything, especially in the fight with All For One. So he's actually good to go, at least good to go in terms of his Provisional Hero License, and this would lead him to being able to be involved with Sir Night Eye's agency a little bit sooner. And we know what all of this is going to trend to, and that's fighting against the one and only Overhaul. Now, Overhaul is a absolute terrifying foe, at least to an extent, right? Overhaul is pretty damn scary, and Izuku, well, and his personality, especially on this patrol, would make him so struggle out of his mind on the idea of not just blasting Overhaul straight into the wall and beating him senseless. And the only reason why he didn't is because Mirio basically told him before this countless times that if they run into trouble, that he should avoid it at all costs. Avoid the trouble entirely. In which this would irritate the hell out of Izuku. I mean, Izuku wants to put this guy down, but he would avoid the trouble, even if it means letting that monster take the little girl back once again. But he tells Mirio that he better promise that they will do anything to get her back, because if they don't, and she has a scratch on her after, he is going to hurt him extremely badly. Like, extremely badly. Mirio is terrified of Izuku. Like, the eyes, his physique, I mean, he is freaking terrified. I mean, Mirio tells him again, like, don't worry, like, we are going to get her back. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. And maybe he's doing it out of self-preservation. Maybe he's doing it because he actually believes it. But either way, he is still pretty damn terrified. Now, this would lead to them planning and setting up and getting ready for a siege on the base of the Shihazaikai. And this raid, just overall, would be a lot simpler. And the reason for it is because they have the Spartan mentality. Izuku would stand in front of the raid as the warrant is read off, and he would begin to chant and slam his spear on the ground and stomp on the ground, making some sort of rhythmic pattern. As he does so, everybody's just quirks would be enhanced, and everybody would feel energized, would feel basically stamina and adrenaline to its max potent ability. And all of them would go charging in. The villains that would show face would be defeated almost instantly. Even a giant monstrous man who is a huge creature would be defeated so much easier by Ryukyu and Mount Lady and whoever else that is currently there, everybody would be extremely surging in power, and Overhaul would realize that he needs to escape ASAP. But there's one person hunting him down extremely quickly, and that is Mirio. Izuku watches as Mirio phases through every single wall, flying basically through everything, and eventually arriving at Overhaul. Izuku tries to still get to where Mirio is, but Mirio is way ahead of schedule. But the thing is, Mirio realized that he is in full capability with the help of Izuku, of course, and his quirk enhancement basically, as the Spartan, that he is going to be able to obliterate Overhaul on his own. And he makes sure that Overhaul feels this, because as he dives toward, well, Overhaul, he begins to beat on him so easily. Overhaul can't even touch him. Now, it might sound crazy, but Overhaul, or excuse me, Mirio, is actually able to utilize his fists and his, well, punching ability even when he's permeated. So he can actually pick up, he can actually move, he can actually hit people while he's in full pure permeation. And as he does this, as he beats on Overhaul, the last ditch effort is to shoot Eri with a quirk erasing bullet. Now, Mirio would dash over to save her, but instead of tanking the bullet himself, he would just move her out of the way, dashing in after, knocking out the man that shot the bullet, and he would continue his onslaught on Overhaul, eventually to the point where Overhaul was out cold with no reinforcements to truly help him and no way to get out of the current predicament that he really was in. Overhaul falls right here, and as Izuku walks through, as his shield clatters off the wall, he would look to see that Mirio had it handled. He would holster his shield and his spear, and he would look toward Mirio, and he would nod. "It seems like you took my words seriously, Mirio." In which Mirio would nod as well and say that Izuku did all of this, really and truly. He gave him the boost that he needed to finish the job quicker than, well, anybody could have, really, and he was able to fly through and just save who they wanted to save. In which Izuku nods and says that's what matters at the end of the day. All that matters is the partners that stand next to you in the feat of war. In which Izuku would tell him that everything's gonna be all right. And as they cuff Overhaul and as they pick up Eri to basically have her leave now, everybody in the Shiha Zaikai base is already defeated in a matter of maybe 10 minutes, maybe even less than that. Defeated extremely quickly, and Izuku didn't even get his hands on Overhaul, which disappoints him a little bit, but still, he knows that it was for the best anyways. They would all head back to the agencies, and everybody would regroup, and they would all talk about their victory or their succeeded mission, in which they congratulate everybody, but Mirio even tells them that this was not going to be possible without Izuku Midoriya, that he is hero ready, and he may not have an actual license just yet, but he is the closest to hero ready, the closest first year he's ever seen, and frankly the closest hero student he's ever seen, barring any year. He doesn't care if you're first, third, or second. He, right here, the Spartan, is the most hero ready out of them all. But there's a little bit more to come with obviously some training with UA High School, but also maybe some unexpected villains or villain that may be laying dormant for the moment, that may use its last ditch efforts and its loyalty to the one and only All For One to try to release All For One in a last ditch effort. But that is for the finale of What If Deku had a Spartan Quirk. And if you enjoyed, please leave a like, leave a sub, leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And I hope you guys enjoyed, like I said, and I hope all y'all have an amazing day. Later.